there's more going on in Notre Dame football than what you see on Saturday. There's just incredible people, incredible stories and ways that God is working in their lives that has been really inspiring to me. I started off the book by talking about this responsibility of a chaplain to kind of point to Jesus in the world. But what's ironic is that they ended up pointing me to Jesus, right? Like these are ways in which I've been edified and drawn closer to God. So I just felt compelled to talk about it.
You're listening to NDWorks, a podcast for the Notre Dame campus community, produced by the Office of Internal Communications. We're the team that brings you NDWorks Weekly, NDWorks Quarterly, The Week at ND, and a passion for sharing clear, concise, and interesting information with faculty and staff of the University of Notre Dame. I'm Natalie Davis Miller, Managing Editor for NDWorks, and I'm glad you're listening. Our guest today is Father Nate Wills, the chaplain for the Notre Dame football team. As an education professor at Notre Dame, he teaches in the Miriam Remick Leadership Program and is the founding director of the Alliance for Catholic Education Higher Power Learning Program. Father Nate earned a Master of Divinity in Theology and a Master of Education from Notre Dame, as well as a doctorate in Education, Leadership, and Policy from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He was ordained in the spring of 2006. So, Father Nate, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? What was your family life like?
Sure. Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and my parents are still there. Everybody lives there. And so that's home.
Okay, so I did a little cheat and I read a little bit about you. Yeah. You have a sister named Natalie?
I do have a sister named Natalie.
I thought that was so cool because I'm a Natalie and I have a nephew named Nathan.
Oh,
and
that's
we call him
nice.
Nate. So I thought that was kind of cool. So did you grow up playing football or any team sports in middle school, high school, college?
Yeah, I always played sports throughout elementary and high school, but that was basically just because my parents were like, you're going to play a sport, like keep you occupied and stuff. I talk about it in the book that I played football my senior year of high school, but I was not very good at all.
Was it because of your position that you played? Or
I don't think I have the sort of killer instinct or something like that. I didn't like getting hit.
No one does. Well, my sources on campus say that you like to run and that you've been in a running club.
Oh, I have been in a running club in the past. I've run, and basically running works for me because it involves me just using my feet and not my hands and my feet at the same time. So like my level of coordination is left, right. Like I can do that. But I do like to run, and I've run in some races in the past. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay. So Father Nate, was attending Notre Dame always a goal of yours?
No, in fact, my older brother came to Notre Dame before me, and I thought, Notre Dame's his thing. I'm going to go anywhere but there, right? And then I went to visit schools, and I was like, okay, all right, I got some good prospects. And then I went to visit him here at Notre Dame. I'm like, well, this place is way better than all those other places. I want to go here. And so I ended up applying, and I found out that they had a college seminary program as well, which was really amazing because I'd been looking into the seminary at home, but it wasn't a good fit. And I went to visit the seminary here which is called Old College, and it was an awesome place with great people. And so it was just God taking care of me.
That's awesome. How did you, or I should say first when, and then how did you decide to become a priest? Yeah.
That's tricky. I first started really thinking about being a priest when I was in high school. I went to World Youth Day in 1993. The Pope John Paul II came to Denver, and it was an amazing experience with all these other young people. And he said something really simple, but it really stuck with me. He said, Jesus Christ expects great things from young people. And it just stuck with me in a way that I couldn't forget it, or, it kind of convicted me of saying, like, you know what, I've got to think about how I'm using my life and my gifts and what are the needs of the church and the world. And I don't know, I think it led me bit by bit to thinking about being a priest. And I had a lot of high school teachers kind of approach me. Our Holy Cross constitutions talk about being called from within and from without. And I had a number of Holy Cross teachers, or a number of high school teachers, I should say, who said, have you ever thought about being a priest? And I was like, how did you know that? Because I think it's important that, it's not just a thing that I think about, but that others see that you have some of the gifts for doing this as well.
And it sounds like Notre Dame then was a perfect fit.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was incredible I didn't know much about Holy Cross when I came here. And its mission of education has just been really incredible. And the idea, our motto is the cross, our hope, I think has really been resonant with me. And I think in our culture in a time when hope is so desperately in need.
Okay, so you're a priest and a priest in residence at Keough Hall. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go Brews.
You're directing the Higher Power Learning Program for Notre Dame's Alliance for Catholic Education.
Yep.
Faculty member of the Marianne Remick Leadership Program. And I have that in all caps. And the football chaplain.
That's the only one that anybody cares about.
But I still see that's a lot. So if you want to just give us a sentence or two about, let our listeners know what you're doing with all these things. And I want to know, how are you doing it all?
It's awesome. So teaching in the Remick Leadership Program is great. So that's folks who are going to be Catholic school principals. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program. It's so life-giving. A lot of that's really in the summertime. I teach 2 courses for them in the fall and 2 in the spring, but they're on campus in the summer and they're just on fire with the faith. They're so excited. Higher Power Learning is my program based on my research, where my colleague Lewis and I work with schools to implement technology in meaningful ways in Catholic schools. We're doing a lot with AI literacy right now, which is a hot topic in Catholic schools, to be sure. And then the priest in residence thing is just fun. That's where I live and that's where I go back. And I get to be kind of the fun uncle of my dorm. I don't have disciplinary responsibility for the guys or anything like that. They're so much fun. There's so much energy. On Tuesday nights, I have mass every Tuesday at 9 p.m. at Keough. And afterwards, we do tater tots. So they come up to my room and, cooked 2 trays of tater tots and they just house those and tell me about their week and, hang out with one another. It's so much fun. They're like energetic and creative and thoughtful and funny. And it's just all life-giving. And then the football thing is kind of my weekend gig, which has just been really, really a lot of fun. This is the start of my 8th season.
Oh, wow.
Year. And,
okay. 8 seasons.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So in addition to all that, you're also an author of a new book, Pray Like a Champion Today, Sacred Stories from the Sidelines of Notre Dame Football. Is this your first book?
This is my first book. I wrote a dissertation when I completed my doctorate, but I don't think that counts. I don't know if that's ever been printed, first of all. And I don't know how much it's been read, but this is my first book. Certainly the first one about football.
I've read that book. And
excellent. What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it.
Great.
I would call it a devotional. It has snackable, bite-sized lessons, parables, stories, and a prayer at the end. I love the scripture that's in there. And, I've looked for some things that you've talked about on campus. I have some more questions about some things that you mentioned in there.
Nice.
You talk about the first round college football playoff game between Notre Dame and Indiana University. And I have 2 degrees from IU.
Uh-oh.
We all know how that game ended. And my worlds collided working here because I love working at Notre Dame and I also love IU. But I really love this book and I fully intend to gift it to my daughters and my son-in-law who are also IU.
Wow, that's high praise.
But they're also football fans. We're all Christians. And I think there's a lesson for everyone, whether you're Christian or Catholic or honestly, whatever your faith or non-faith may be, there are lessons in this book. So I'm looking forward to sharing it. So now I've been bragging about it. Can you give us, and we'll go into it a little more, but can you give us like a little synopsis of this book?
Yeah, so it was really just my attempt to talk about another side of football, a side that I've encountered over these last 7 seasons, and like this just really important moments where I felt like incredible things happened. I felt like the hand of God was at work, and I talked in the book a little bit about this when we're baptized, we're invited to be priest, prophet, and king, right? And part of being a prophet is to do as John the Baptist did, which is just point to Jesus in the world. Like that's what he did, behold the Lamb of God. And I think we're called to do that same thing too, to say, there was a moment that something happened where Christ was present. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to talk about those things. And it's been such a privilege for me to write about those things in this book and to say, hey, there's more going on in Notre Dame football than what you see on Saturday. There's just incredible people, incredible stories and ways that God is working in their lives that has been really inspiring to me. I started off the book by talking about, this responsibility of a chaplain to kind of point to Jesus in the world. But what was ironic is that they ended up pointing me to Jesus, right? Like these are ways in which I've been edified and drawn closer to God. So I just felt compelled to talk about it.
What you just said is very close to what Coach Marcus Freeman said in the foreword. Mm-hmm. He says, our team chaplain, Father Nate Wills, is someone we can trust to perform his role at his best ability each day. He leads the people in our program along their individual spiritual journeys, taking everyday moments and making connections to faith that are relatable and inspirational. I'm like, wow, what a position description. And then I thought, is that a natural skill? Is that part of your training as a priest?
Well, first of all, he was very kind to write that. He's very kind to write the foreword just in general. I mean, can you imagine the amount of things that he has to do all the time? And he took the time to write this, which is just, it was so kind. I don't know. People who hear me preach a lot would say that's, barely a gift, or sometimes maybe. But I do think it's our responsibility to connect the things that happen in our everyday world to our God, to connect it to our faith, to connect it to the inspiration that we receive. And it's connected, like I did in this book, to sacred scripture, right? To say, oh, that reminds me of this. My colleague I teach with, Sarah Perkins, she's so good at this. Like whenever she's facilitating a large group discussion, somebody will say something. She says, oh, that reminds me of this scripture passage and something. And that method of doing that has been really inspirational to me to say, significant things can happen in life and beautiful moments. And it should point us back to God and say, you know what? I saw in that moment a glimpse of the face of God. And the more we know scripture, which I don't know it that well, but the more we do, I think the more God can reveal himself through that to us.
Did this book come together for you? Did you write it all at once? Or had you been thinking about it? Or had you just been collecting notes when things hit you a certain way? Did you plan it out? Why this book right now?
Yeah. I have a little, note on my phone in the little notes app that just said ND football chaplain or something like that. And I just started writing down things starting my first year where really significant moments happen. There's a chapter about Drew Tranquil in there, and this amazing experience happened with this. And I couldn't help at that moment, but like, you know what? I better write this down because this is a really special thing. And I'm likely to forget it if I don't write it down. So I started just writing and writing and writing. And after a while, I looked at this file and it was huge. It was pages and pages. And, at one point, I was talking to a friend of mine who ended up being my editor on this book, my good friend Josh Noam, and I said, Josh, these are fun stories, many of which I bored him with. I was telling him, hey, this story, this thing happened, and he said, we should talk about writing a book here. And I'm like, when am I going to do that? I don't have time to do that. I have the jobs you mentioned before, And he said, well, think about it. And this past fall of 2024, I started writing a little bit more seriously and turning some of these stories into like a more complete narrative. And he said, give me 3 chapters. And so I wrote up 3 chapters, and he pitched it to Ave Maria Press, which is right here at Notre Dame. And they were so cool. They said, yeah, absolutely, we want to do it. And they said, we have to have it ready by February in order to print it by next football season. So between basically October and February, I wrote the whole book. So,
I can tell because I think there are a lot of like right now references.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so current right now. So that was really kind of enjoyable, to read these things that we know about in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're the ND football chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you get this position? There's a story in there, I think, where you are even questioning yourself on becoming the chaplain. You say something to Father Pete McCormick about not knowing much about football.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall what you wrote as his response?
Yeah, he was great. This is the number one question, by the way, that I get asked by people. They're like, how do you get to be the football chaplain? I didn't apply or anything. Pete just called me out of the blue. And I told him, I said, first of all, I'm honored. Second, I don't know that much about football. And his response was just great. He said, Nate, we pay a lot of people a lot of money to know all there is to know about football. We don't need you to call plays. We just need you to point them to Jesus. And it was a great response, right? It made me laugh. And that's true. Like it was a great invitation.
Okay. And so who was your predecessor?
Yeah. So Father Mark Thiesing was before me. And he was just awesome. The first 2 seasons I was chaplain, actually, we were kind of splitting games back and forth. He'd taken on some more responsibilities within our province. And so he was a great mentor, great, just person to help me, know the ropes and everything about football. And during COVID, they asked me to do it solo, I think mostly just to kind of limit exposure, because they were really trying to limit the number of people that interacted with our team. In fact, it was funny. I didn't write about this in the book, but they had us serve food to all the players at the hotel when we were at away games, because they didn't want to bring in external people. And it was so much fun. We had a blast doing it. I actually wish we still did it because it was a blast. I'm, arm in arm with plastic gloves on with the orthopedic surgeons that travel with us. And it was really fun.
So you've always been a servant, but you were a servant in that moment. That's
exactly.
Very cool. So what is the day-to-day work of a football chaplain? If you can walk us through a day or a weekend, is it just during the season or are you always available? How's it work?
Yeah, it's a little of both. The big things are on the weekend. The big things are for games, home and away games. I travel with the team for away games. And we have mass before the game. At home games, we do it in the Basilica and then march over to the stadium. So that's the big thing, having mass at them, preaching to them. For away games, we usually do mass the day before, then get on the plane and then go to the location, wherever that is. But it really is, to just be a resource for them, to be with folks in difficult moments. If there's a loss of a friend or a parent or something like that, to be another resource for the team and the staff. It's really tough to be a football coach. It's a really volatile position, and I've tried to make myself available to some of those folks. It's been a great pattern. As I mentioned, my predecessor, Father Mark Thiesing, and then Father Paul Doyle before him, just really warm people who, in many cases, started people off and talking about our faith, talking about being baptized if they weren't, or, just all kinds of different things. You never know what's going to come up. And so it really is just a ministry of presence in many ways.
So did you have anything to do with that win against IU? Do you have anything to do with the weather or what's happening in the game? Do people have some expectation of some miracle working or not? Or
I will often get people to say Father, can't you do something about this? And my response is always the same. George Heater just loves this. He's one of our police officers, and he quotes me often doing this. He'll say, or I'll say to them, listen, I know you want the rain to stop, or, I know you want us to gain points or whatever, but I'm in sales, not management.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
There's something that you do. I think it's chapter 3, a battle ready tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about the game medals. And that's something I was absolutely not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that fascinating. And you even break it down to getting them ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they can go on other things. And you mentioned a double jump ring.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I like to work with jewelry.
Oh.
And I have those little pliers to open up that double ring. And I got to tell you, I'm not praying in the moment I should be before I start because I'm so frustrated opening those. And then I have to sit them down and walk away. And then how many are you doing per game? 200 or something?
Yeah, 200 for a home game.
Oh, I don't know how you do it. And maybe I need to come and get a lesson from you. But tell us a little bit about the medals.
Yeah, so this is a great tradition. This is literally over 100-year tradition at Notre Dame, where we've been giving this holy medals, images of the saints, to our student athletes before games. My brother was a walk-on for Notre Dame's basketball team, ended up earning a scholarship, and he had all these medals from all of his time playing basketball here. But it's been going on for 100 years. I tell the story in the book about the first time that we have, in recorded history, that we have a priest giving holy medals to our team was in 1923. Notre Dame was playing Army, and Army had this Hollywood star do a ceremonial kickoff for them so that, she was on our side. At that time, Cardinal O'Hara, who is then Father O'Hara on campus, but he's the famous cardinal from Philadelphia, who's buried in the Basilica. He was a much loved priest on campus, and Father O'Hara said, if she's on their side, we're going to have St. Joan of Arc on our side. And so he handed out St. Joan of Arc medals to the whole football team. And by the way, we won that game. and it was amazing. This is all in Father Blance's book, Tom Blance's History of Notre Dame. And I encountered this the summer before the 2023 football season. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to play USC the day after this game, 100 years before. And so I'm like, well, we got to get St. Joan of Arc medals. And so I told this story to the guys, and they just loved it. And they were so excited about, this 100-year tradition and the great example of St. Joan of Arc. And by the way, we beat USC that year.
Very good. Okay, Father Nate, there was one chapter, Our Lady, Queen of Victory. Mm-hmm. And I understand that there's a story behind that, and that's also a medal. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we give one Medal of Mary every season. Sometimes I cheat and I give two under different names. And there's all these, beautiful different devotions to Mary, Our Lady of Guadalupe and Our Lady of Fatima and Our Lady. This is particular one was Our Lady of Victory or Our Lady of the Rosary. They're confusingly, they're the same devotion. I was excited about this medal because I knew it related to a naval battle, and we were playing Navy, so I chose it for that. But the more I researched it, the deeper rabbit holes I found out. So this is Our Lady of the Rosary celebrates the fact that that in the Battle of Lepanto, which is, hundreds of 500 years ago, the papal navies kind of banded together with a couple other navies and had this great military naval defeat. And it was, incumbent upon the people who were at home to pray the rosary, to pray for them. And they attributed this victory to Our Lady of the Rosary or Our Lady of Victory. So Father Soren knew this, the founder of Notre Dame knew this history and tradition, and he took literally 50 trips across the Atlantic, going from the U.S. over to France, where he was from, right? And went back and forth to visit our founder, Father Moreau, and all these different things to raise money. And on one of those trips, he actually became shipwrecked. They were lost at sea. I shouldn't say shipwrecked. On one of those trips, they were lost at sea because the steamship they were on broke down, and they were just floating there, with little hope of rescue. And so he led the whole crew, everybody on this ship, in the praying of the Rosary for Our Lady of Victory's intercession. And sure enough, they were discovered, and rescued. And as soon as he got to France, he wrote back to Notre Dame and said, I want to have one of the chapels, side chapels at the Basilica of the Sacred Heart, which was then not a basilica, but it was, being planned and implemented. He said, dedicated to Our Lady of the Rosary, Our Lady of Victory. And to this day, you can go into the chapel. It's as you walk in, it's on the left side in the kind of far back, and see the images, the Battle of Lepanto, as a way to honor Mary for rescuing him from being lost at sea.
I love that story. And I think that's awesome that you can go right on campus and you can go see this beautiful stained glass that represents that story.
The story was in the Cavadini and Cunningham book about all the stained glass windows, which is, by the way, a huge treasure. And you should check that book out too, because it's just delightful.
I know that book and it is beautiful. And you'll learn so much about the history of the stained glass.
Did. Yeah.
So who is this book for? Who did you intend it for?
Well, I hope it reaches a pretty broad audience. I mean, certainly Notre Dame folks are going to be interested in it, but I mean, I think the stories are in many ways relatable to any person who likes football or maybe is interested in deepening their faith, just kind of wants to hear a different side of Notre Dame football. I think it's not totally different from what you're doing here, kind of showing people the other sides of the inner workings of Notre Dame, right? That's what you all do. And I think that's a really important thing to say. There's three dimensions to the work that we do, the lives that we live, and to Notre Dame. And I think often people will look at football in just kind of a one-dimensional way and say, these are the guys who play on Saturday, and they're really interesting student athletes. They're people with robust faith lives and beautiful personal lives, and it's been such a pleasure to see them, to get to know them, to get to know the coaches, and to be able to tell some of the stories about them related to faith is a real honor.
When Notre Dame wins a national championship, do you, as the chaplain, also get a ring?
I do get a ring. In fact, some of the other, a friend of mine who's the fencing chaplain has gotten several rings when they won national championships. But I told the guys years ago, when we win a national championship, I will also get a tattoo. I don't have any tattoos. And I said, I get to pick what and where, but I promise you that when we win a national championship, I'll get a tattoo.
You're going to leave that a mystery for our listeners, right? Okay. Can you tell me, because you have so many roles here, plus you were a student here, and you're a member of the Congregation of Holy Cross. Mm-hmm. What's the best part of working at Notre Dame, or the best part of you being here? Maybe you have a lot of best parts. You got a lot of roles. So
yeah, there's so many best parts. I would say if it's break it down to one thing, is the people I get to work with. And that's everybody. I mean, that's my students in the Remic Leadership Program. That's my colleagues there. That's my friends who are Holy Cross priests on campus. It's the football team is just amazing. I mean, professionals who work at the highest level and inspire me and get me excited. I mean, I am so surrounded by an embarrassment of riches with the people that I get to work with and interact with. And they're just beautiful. Like, people never cease to amaze me with their depth and insight, their wisdom. I'm always learning things and growing. And I think this book is a representation of the fact that, like, I am so inspired by these stories from our team that I just couldn't help but tell people about it. And I hope that it reaches, a wider audience because they need to know how awesome the players and coaches and staff and everybody on our team really are.
I have this sense after reading the book that, and you've already said this in different ways, there's so much more that happens, outside of the game time. Mm-hmm. You talked about the refs. Mm-hmm. And you've given them medals. Yeah. And there was one where I think you said a scripture with another ref.
Yeah.
And do you pray with them sometimes, or do they approach you or talk to you?
Yeah, it's really awesome. I have a great friend who's a Big Ten ref. His name is Cole Knippel, and Cole is just an amazing, dedicated, awesome guy. And he's a Big Ten football ref, and he really has kind of opened my eyes to, hey, these guys have other jobs, and they're really good people. And so I've just started talking to the refs and asking them, hey, what do you do? What's your 9 to 5? And they're so interesting. They're so fun. They're really smart people. I'll often just chat with them because nobody really wants to talk to them before the game, right? Like everybody's like, oh, scared of the refs and stuff. So I'll just chat them up. Some of them are deeply faithful. Others are like, yeah, great, you're the chaplain, whatever. So it's just a mix. Some part of my role is to be, an ambassador for Notre Dame and to welcome them, right? And so it's been. I talk about some of the different stories in the book about refs and the different encounters I've had with them, and I just really like them. They're some of the smartest people around, and they're just really interesting folks who often, everybody just kind of says, oh, the refs, but I think they're pretty great.
Very good. So your book came out in August. Where can listeners find it?
They can find the book where all fine books are sold. They can find it in the bookstore, Notre Dame bookstore. They can go over to Ave Maria Press, and they're just across the street on the north side of campus. And they often have sales on their website, so stay tuned. Look for a sale there.
What's the cost?
It is $18.42 a copy.
Okay, that sounds familiar. That number. Okay, and
it's on Amazon too, if that's easy. So people are Amazon people.
So I see that you also have an Instagram account at Pray Like a Champion Today, and you also have a YouTube, also Pray Like a Champion Today. What will people find there when they go to these accounts?
Yeah, so the Instagram has been really fun. My buddy Pete had this idea that like, hey, you should start using Instagram. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know about Instagram or whatever. And we thought, it would be really fun to show the holy medals to kind of the wider audience, to say, hey, this is what we gave this week. And it gave me a chance to tell folks a little bit about the saint, to just kind of use the platform for evangelization. And that's been super fun. And it went from like starting out just a couple lines about the saint to now I give a little more detailed biography. And if I don't put it up, people will be like, hey, where's the saint? So it's been really cool and a fun opportunity to show people about that. And then I just show a couple of things. I mean, every once in a while I'll put, some kind of hype video there or something about guys in football. I usually do a recap of the weddings, picture of all the weddings I had, during a year. Sometimes when we're doing away games, I'll give folks a glimpse of, what we're seeing and that type of thing. So it's a ton of fun. And then my YouTube channel is, a number of things as well, but often you can find like a lot of Holy Cross homilies. If you look, and there's a link in my bio on Instagram. You can get to all, my homilies and stuff like that. But they're interestingly, recently I gave a homily at the Basilica where I told a story about football that I was kind of writing up for the book, and it got cut.
Oh, so is this some bonus info for our listeners?
Yeah, exactly. Bonus material. And hilariously, so this was, I told the story. You can watch the homily, but probably tell it more effectively there. But it was a moment where I was giving a homily for the guys in football, and I made the mistake of saying the name Alabama, and it instantly got me boos. People were like, boo. And I couldn't recover from this. I've never been booed in a homily before. And they were really, it was really funny. And when I told actually Eddie Scheidler, who's just one of our great former players, and I think he's working for like NBC Sports now or something like that. He came up to me on the sidelines at the Blue and Gold game this spring. And I told him like, oh, Eddie, I wrote a book. He's like, oh my gosh, that's great. Did you talk about the time when they booed you? I'm like, no, man, no, I did not. But it was a lot of fun.
Now, how many priests can say that they've been booed during a homily? I think that's awesome. So there's a little bonus material there. Yeah. So there's another chapter in the book, chapter 8. It's entitled The 11th Commandment. And I'm pretty sure there's only 10. And so I think that one is about comparing.
Yeah.
And I really like that chapter a lot. You don't have to be a sports fan or a football fan to read this book and get something from it. So, I mean, something as simple as that. Yeah. Don't compare it. So tell me about that.
Yeah, my hope is really that the stories that I tell in this book are accessible to folks beyond football. My goal when I'm preaching to the student athletes, our football players, is to not talk about football. They get a lot of people talking about football all day long, and they don't need me to talk about football. They know much more than I do about football. So I try to just talk about the scripture. I talk about Jesus. I talk about inspirational things that have happened in my life, and to connect them to universal truths about not comparing yourself to others, about being resilient. So I think those are really important overall lessons, and those are throughout this book that I hope everybody can really grab onto.
Thank you so much, Father Nate, for taking this time to share with us a little about your life and about your new book, Pray Like a Champion, today.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I really appreciate the opportunity. I hope people continue to enjoy it. Thanks.
We'll be back next time with more news and stories by and for Notre Dame employees. I'm Natalie Davis Miller. Thanks for listening to NDWorks.